Welcome to the RAG Podcast, the weekly show where I interview recruitment owners who are prepared to tell their unique story of growth. This is all in aid of helping future and existing recruitment businesses who are looking to do similar things. Now, growth means different things to different people. So by tuning in every week, you're no doubt going to find information that's relevant to you.
Welcome back to another episode of the RAG Podcast. On this week's show, I'm super excited to be rejoined by Jordan Shlosberg, the founder of Atlas. Recruit with Atlas is the sponsor of the show, the world's first AI-powered CRM for recruiters around the world. And since we interviewed him in September, the business has grown exponentially. They're actually on track to $1 million in ARR in the first 9 months, which is incredible. Now, the point of the show, though, was to talk about Atlas's growth. We talked about AI and the things that the changes to the platform, but we also talk about the launch of the Hoxo and Atlas Top 100. We've looked at the amount of people who believe that they should look at LinkedIn and build a brand across social platforms, social selling, but they don't really understand if it makes a difference. And we've looked at, can we metricize this? Can we use data to work out who are the top 100 most socially engaged recruitment leaders in the world, with the intention of them finding out if this is making a significant difference to their revenue? So today we talk about the top 25. There's 5 of those that are my clients, and I know they're having a significant impact on revenue. And I will be then interviewing more and more people. So I think you're going to enjoy this episode. If you're interested in building a brand, in using AI, then you're going to love it. So without further ado, all right, Jordan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Excited to be back. London this time.
You were the first episode recorded in that Sheffield office, I think, or one of them. And now your first episode recorded in this new London studio we're going to use.
Yeah, I like that we've got a real good mix here because it was real traditional in Sheffield.
Yeah, it was very regal. Yeah, it was regal. It was a grand room, whereas this is actually a more Hoxo room.
We're in the future now. We're in the future.
Well, this is the workspace building we're in was very similar. We had a workspace before we shut the offices down in COVID. So this is like a bit of a blast from the past. Even the internet, I'm like, oh, I remember that.
Oh, the old internet.
The old internet.
Who'd have thought?
So how have you been and how have Atlas been? It's been a few months, I think. Yeah. I think it was September when we recorded.
Yeah, it was.
And you were just going live with all the comms, and I feel like your name gets thrown around every day pretty much for me from someone. So what's it been like?
It's gone as well as I honestly could have expected. We obviously went fully live in September. After having these early customers, design customers, I suppose, through finishing. And it kind of really just exploded out the gate. And we've since really honed the message now of what we actually are, because that was a discovery. And we're now focusing on the anti-CRM, feels like the best way to describe it, because it is not that the CRM gives you that dreaded feeling of admin. And so now when I'm thinking about this business, it's a communication stack, a swarm of agents, and then a CRM ATS at the bottom. So the idea is that, as we mentioned last time, it is really syncing everything you say here, read and write. We didn't have phone systems when we last spoke. We do now.
You've got like a integrated on Zoom and stuff like that, note takers.
Integrated on all of the systems now. So you literally just log in to Atlas, and by default it will start joining everything. You can obviously turn that off if you don't want it. We've added Ring Central, Ring Over as integrations.
Good.
And we didn't go down this, let's build our own VoIP system. Buy the thing you want to use. We're adding a few more every day. And then it's one code, and that's the integration done. Then everything that happens through that phone system is just stored and synced. One guy told me that he was out for lunch with his father-in-law, and candidate call comes in. So he just picks the phone up, has the call.
On his mobile?
On his mobile, because it's coming through VoIP. And then he goes back to lunch. And then he just asks Atlas, can you just write me a report on this candidate? And it obviously included that conversation. Can you speak to Atlas now? Not yet. We were thinking about it, but because it's not difficult to do, but we were thinking for the solo recruiters who work on their own, it's probably good. But if you're in an office, you're just going to keep saying, hey, Atlas, and then everyone's systems will turn on.
But surely you could press, like on ChatGPT, you can press the button that enables it. So like, you can either type or there's a little icon that you click and then it takes a second to load. So you could perhaps build
We
that.
could, because they've made it really nice and easy to use now. I think we've still got a lot of basics still to do and a lot of cool things we'll do. But I really do think that obviously some aspects of recruitment would just really work nicely with voice. Searching candidates, I can really see, show me software developers with Node in Birmingham. Oh, actually, do you know what? Maybe React as well. So
I just think if you think about the on-the-go nature of, like even today, I'm walking from the Hoxton Hotel to here, and I'm voice noting people because I'm trying to ring them. They're not answering, so I'll WhatsApp voice note them or a LinkedIn voice note or whatever, and then I get a voice note back, and I'm like, that is so much more powerful than an email. It's not as quite as I can't get the solution sorted out as quickly as a phone call, but it's the next best thing, and I'm like, if I could talk to my CRM and just be like, look, I've literally, I've just got off the phone, like take the note. Like, I do this with ChatGPT all the time, personally. I use it as, I'm more of a speaker to it now. I use it as like a mindset personal coach. I've created a thread that's called My Personal Coach, and I've asked it to become a leading psychologist. No word of a lie, right? It's Christmas. We're off for 2 weeks. I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 dogs. It gets a lot. And there was one day where we went out into the snow. Or no, it was when it was icy, but it not quite snowed in the Peak District, nearly where we walked when you guys came up. And my wife's got the baby in what do you call it? A kangaroo sling, yeah. Anyway, and my wife's boot goes straight through the ice into the water. She's not wearing like waterproof shoes. She's upset. The kids are moaning. It's cold. And I remember getting back and thinking, I shouldn't have dragged them out because I'm so adamant I didn't want them on the devices. I was like, we're going out. The weather's horrific. We're on the top of a mountain. It's blowing gales. And I was like, I need to talk to someone, but I can't speak to my wife because I know I'll piss her off. So I drove around the block and just got my phone out and just ChatGPT'd it. And I was like, right, you need to help me calm down here. And you need to help me see the wood through the trees because I'm 2 weeks I'd been ill for a week. You're off work. Everything's a bit routine lacking. And I was like, it was amazing just to release and chat. Now, if we go back to what I was originally saying, how much of the job do people hate because you've got to write it down? I think so much in recruitment that people don't want to write down. They would rather talk. That's why we get into recruitment, because we like talking and not writing reports.
Exactly right. No, it is something that I definitely would love to do. And I asked a few. We have this really fantastic community of our clients and users now, which is great. And
it never stops popping.
Yeah, and I've put that question in once or twice. Let's talk about voice. I think the thing which is definitely the thing which I think I'll tackle first is just voice noting from your phone.
Yep.
Because it's quite lightweight. So, phones, I don't know if mobile apps for CRMs are a really good thing. It's quite a big endeavor to build, and it's quite difficult to do anything from your phone that's real value added. But I do see some things like I just need to get this person's phone number or whatever. But if I want to say, right, on this person, add a note and dictate it, that I can see being very useful. And it's actually really easy to build. And of course, because we have all the agents on the back of the note, so if I now actually put a note into the platform, it fires off like 5 agents. One of them says, have you got any to-dos from what you've just told me? And if you have, it's going to make the to-dos for you with the times and everything and give you evidence why it thinks it's a to-do. If you mention salaries, it will make sure the salaries go down there as well. So we're just adding more and more agents to do more and more things with the data. So obviously, the easier we make it for people to add data, the more powerful the system becomes. So yeah, and that literally, if we think about what would it take to make that, I mean, you can add a dictated note system in a day, 2 days, and you can make the web app to do it in another 2 or 3 days. So it's not a massive product these days. And that's the great thing about AI and building. It's just easier to build things.
Because code can be automated.
Yeah. Well, code, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's like a lot of the kind of heavy lifting of code can now be done. There is this debate, which I note that some of the engineers will say that obviously if you have a massive system, it's just not smart enough to understand, okay, how do I make this sustainable code and scalable code? Because it might work, but it'll be, they call it spaghetti code, where it kind of works, but no one really can read it. And as you know, right, there are some things that ChatGPT just can't do. Like you give it, for example, a 4-page or 4-chapter of a book and say, give me the whole synopsis, it will miss the middle of it because it actually does have memory issues. You'd think it doesn't, but it does not see everything. So it's not infallible.
Yep.
But you know, to go back to the point, yeah, I think clearly there are going to be some great applications for voice in these softwares.
So in terms of your customer base, what's that looking like now? How are we growing?
Yeah, I mean, we are. There's a SaaS statistic or SaaS metric where, and this is very much, you know, finger in the air, but they say, oh, once you get to the first dollar of revenue, the top decile SaaS businesses will get to $1 million in 9 months. Now, obviously, this might have changed a bit because I've heard some of the agentic businesses are doing it in like 2 or 3 months because obviously you're charging $500 a pop.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult to ramp up. But we are pretty much on track for being in that top decile SaaS.
Wow.
Which is unbelievable. And what we're seeing now is as we unlock features, we're seeing our ticket size getting bigger. So we're getting bigger and bigger agencies now joining us. Whereas before they would say, oh, you know, we need this feature, need that feature. Now we're 4 months in.
I'd say that's the conversation I've had the most is people going, is it ready? Like, are you? And I say, well, there's definitely going to be elements that aren't there. But the thing I know, because I'm in your community, is that this is my next question, is how you actually live your life, because you're so responsive and there's always an answer.
You've given the answer there. I probably don't.
But there's always an answer, right? And I see you dropping updates at like midnight on a Friday, and I'm like, this guy's a lunatic. But so, you're genuinely in it. So I'm like, anything that isn't there, I've got every faith Jordan will build it. Like, because the guy doesn't turn off. Which I hope you're okay and you're balancing your life.
Oh, I'm not. Kids. It's not balanced. No, it is balanced how I like to balance it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm autistic.
You love work.
Yeah, and so there are some positives of this, of how my particular brain operates, and some negatives, I suppose. You know, and I was saying this to an investor literally yesterday, that on the downside, I cannot see any I can't see any body language at all. Don't understand it. Never will. On the plus side, I get very obsessed with things quite easily. But with this, obviously, I've got 3 kids like you as well. And so I'm thinking, how on earth do I make sure that I'm in my balance? So what I've done is I kind of switch off between 5:30-ish and 7:30. So I'm offline for that period. You know, kids dinner, kids bath, bedtime stories, etc. Then I'm back on again from 7:30 till midnight-ish till 1 a.m. And that's obviously not sustainable for ever.
Your relationship as well. Like if you go in,
yeah,
you know, you got someone who goes to bed on their own, you're going to bed later like that.
Exactly.
That's not good for long term.
It's not.
You're obviously building something for the future, right?
Exactly. And you know, I've been with my wife for 15 years. So we, you know, and I'd say she's probably one of like the biggest reasons for me being able to do this well, is because she makes like every aspect of my life around that just 10x better.
Yeah. That's great.
And so we do put aside times for one another, absolutely. And there's clearly times, so for example, with my first business, Prosapient, that I remember the same. The first 2 or 3 years were manic. And then I remember the last 2 years feeling like, and this is cliche, but it's cliche because it's true, I was like a passenger.
Yeah.
I'd hired well, finally. It took me 3 years to figure out how to hire people. I made every mistake known to anyone. And then I realized, yeah, I'm crap at hiring. I really need to hire better if I want to actually have a life. And the last 2 years, I remember I'd be coming to my weeklies saying, okay, team, everyone know what they're doing? Yes. Can I be helpful? No. Really? No one needs anything from me? No. Everything on track? Yes. So then I'd be just calling my brother up like, do you want to go for some lunch? Because I've got nothing to do. So it's just that horses for courses, right? At the beginning of any business, as you know, I'm sure, like you have to put the effort in. But the point is, and I think this is what's amazing, is that when you're an entrepreneur, and I guess that's true with a lot of recruiters who are entrepreneurs, like you put the hard yards in at the beginning, and then the outcomes you can achieve are multiple times greater than you could have done, in a larger organization. But it's not like you can just say, I want to be a millionaire entrepreneur, and then tomorrow it's there. There is a sacrifice that begins that journey. And that is usually time. So you've just got to figure out what works for you, I think. Like we have, for example, I've booked a beautiful holiday to the Club Med in April, which I'm very excited about.
Is that the Club Med? Is that where like everything's already on site and organised and yeah?
And they've got like the kids club for every age.
Yeah, where is it?
This one's in Phuket, but they're in Thailand. But they've got like everywhere.
When are you going? Easter?
Doing Easter.
We're going to Jamaica.
Oh,
I booked that this week.
Fantastic.
My wife's from family of well, she's half Jamaican, but she's never been. And the kids have never been.
Really?
And her dad, who was born in the UK, but his parents, they're both Jamaican. He'd never been. So we're all going in April, which is going to be amazing.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Good weather too, right?
Yeah, I think they get a lot more rain in our summer, so I think it's one of the best months to go, which I'm looking forward to. I've not been anywhere. It sounds ridiculous, but I've not been anywhere since October, which sounds, for anyone else, I don't want to sound like a prick, but for me, I do like to get away at least every 3 months. This will be pushing 5 probably without a trip. So it is what it is. I'm lucky that I can do it. Well, mate, look, I'm glad the business is growing. I'm glad your name's getting out there. I'm glad that you're progressing. What we wanted to do today was talk about something we're launching in partnership, right?
We are indeed.
As the Atlas and Hoxo train grows. And we talked about the combination of what we do. Like, obviously, my business is all about building brand, building community, helping recruitment leaders think innovatively about how they can monetize their business in different ways, how they can attract clients in different ways. And yours is about, powering, using AI to get better data faster, quicker, automation, etc. So the combination of us and you was quite cool. We looked at, could we create what we call the top 100? Now, I'll let you explain what the top 100
Sure. So, as some of you may know, we have the Atlas 30, which is a quite clinical ranking of the influencers in our industry.
Yeah.
And so
I need to get number 1 at some point.
You do.
I'm always
you
about
do.
4, aren't I?
You need to do more comments to other people in the response. That's it. That's one of the metrics.
Yeah, I need to do more. I teach that and need to.
So they're obviously social selling, I think, is one of the most powerful things there are, because BD is the hardest part of not just recruitment, but any business development. How the hell do you get people to come to you? How do you grow your business and get the opportunity to make money? And you've got to use everything at your disposal, social being one of them. And so what we wanted to do was to take our idea and the concept we had for the Atlas 30 and turn that inside out and say, of all of the recruiters and the agency owners out there, which recruiters are utilizing social media the most? And by extension, what's the outcome of this success? Is it leading to more billings, more money, more opportunity? So yes, we've crunched the numbers of lots and lots and lots of recruiters and professionals from every corner of the globe, and we've created this Atlas Hoxo 100, which essentially is, I cannot edit it or augment it in any way. It is a mathematical formula of every single metric in social that every person has to say who actually is not just my best buddy, so I pop him at the top, who's literally doing great with social. Mm-hmm. And then to see what are they doing to get there, and what's the outcome of this work?
And I think through the rag, I'm going to be open. I'm going to get some of these people on the show. Like, I've got a couple of these people coming on the show, recording with me right today over this period that'll be released. Because I'm like, some of these guys I know, they're my clients. I've taught them. That's why they're at the top, and I know that. But there's people I don't know. And I guess for me, it's like, I'm always on this drum of social selling. But some people just think, like, you're just trying to flog Hoxo. I'm like, well, okay, if that's what you think. But the proof is in the results. The proof is in the ROI. People are getting serious results. They're getting, I think they're building completely different businesses. Yeah. And the way I like to look at it is, did you see Alex Hormozzi's post about that hot sauce company? Did you see it?
I didn't.
Oh, they sold, you know, that business who do like they get celebrities and they like eat wings in like hot sauce.
Yes,
it's
yes.
It's like a YouTube.
Yes,
series.
I have seen that YouTube.
That business just sold for $82 million. And there's a small team of like 15 people. And the reason they sold was the audience they'd built was like hundreds of millions of followers across every platform. And the way they sold was because the audience was then they were just dropping products in. Like they were selling hot sauce, they were selling this, they were selling that, they had sponsorship revenues. But the buyers didn't buy the sauce, they bought the audience. They bought the fact that there's a loyal fan base that watch this business, that pay for things, that buy things. And I think if you think about recruitment in its purest sense, it's all about attention. I say this all the time. Your whole day job is about getting attention, whether you like it or not. Because people say, oh, it's very self-absorbed, this social media thing. But your job is to get attention. When you're sat in a seat and they go, right, go. Here's a phone, here's a yellow pages, here's your Atlas profile, go. What are you doing all day? You're ringing people, you're emailing people, you're messaging people, you're trying to get them to respond to you.
There's also this thing where people think that you go direct and always sell, or be really direct about, okay, I'm a recruiter for, let's just say product, because I'm a product guy.
Yeah.
And so I talk product all the effing time. And that's obviously, you should do that, but people forget that you buy from people. Buying is an emotional decision sometimes. And what I've seen some amazing people that have really seen great outcomes is they put a couple of personal posts in, not too personal.
It depends on the person, doesn't it? Like someone like Leisha Holmes, for example. So if I look at the top 10, we can kind of look at a few of the names. So Leisha is someone who I taught in 2020. Leisha is a rec-to-rec based in Manchester who was already dabbling, but when I set up the boot camp, the first version of my, what I called the Hoxo Academy in 2020 in the lockdown, she was in. And Leisha really quickly realized that the more she shared, the more honest she was with people, the more she gathered attention. Like even today, she's done a post about like the balance between being a parent and letting your kids down, but also trying to build a business and this balancing act. And she's just got an amazing ability now to open up and be raw. Now, I'm not saying everyone, because not everyone can do that in real life. So some people, you'll sit here for an hour and they won't go much more below where they've been on holiday and who they support as a football team, whatever. They won't go deep. Whereas me personally, I'll tell you about my kids. I'll tell you about my challenge. I'll tell you about my diet. I'll tell you about the fact I stopped drinking. I'm quite open. So my whole thing about this whole, I call it entertaining rather than personal. I think the word personal instantly means you've got to go deep. Whereas when I say entertaining content, I think I class this as non-work related stuff. And again, a lot of people think it's complete nonsense and you shouldn't do it and it's turning fucking LinkedIn into Facebook. And I get that. I get that fear. But for me, if you genuinely want to build relationships, you have to go beyond work. You have to go beyond being that guy that rang about that job once. Do you know what I mean? You have to connect.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. In my first business, we would do a lot of like entertaining with clients. And I put this cardinal rule in with any entertainment. It's like you can ask one business question in the whole session.
But the fact is, what did you call the night? Entertaining.
Yeah.
You didn't call it the personal night. You called it the entertaining night.
Correct.
And to me, that's why I call it entertaining content, because it's the same concept. It's trying to go, and when you went on those entertaining nights and you sat in a nightclub with a bloody credit card, you're not going in their ear, oh, and I wonder, have you got any work next week? Like you're on
Tell me about the next projects coming up. What's the budget like?
I know, but there might be a bit of that here and there, and you get someone hammered.
Question.
You get someone hammered, and you're like, oh, come on, are we going to do some fucking work here? What? Like I did it with one of my clients a couple of years ago. We got pissed all day on the December, and then in the end, I was like, you didn't do this, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, the 5 Guinness help, but maybe I should drink one.
So now you got to remember, you see Sean, is that a Guinness? Please, you got to know there's 4 more coming if you just hold out.
Just sign the fucking contract. But genuinely, like, we go there, we be real, we connect, put alcohol in a box or not, doesn't matter. But where I think the people on this list, and I don't know all of them, I've worked with about 5 of the top 10. Sorry, the top 25, I've worked with about 5, so I've taught about 20% of them. Ryan Kelly, Carl Winterbottom, Stuart Mitchell, Leisha Holmes, Laura Davies. What I think, Joe Major, what these people do is they take the essence of who they are when you're with them and they put it online. It's not about creating a new persona. It's not about going, what will go well on LinkedIn this week if I try? It's not that. It's the opposite. It's going, what am I already talking about? Adam Posner, I know Adam. I've not worked with him. He's fucking wicked. He's got a podcast. He's constantly out there. And if you meet him, I've done loads of one-on-one Zooms with Adam in America. He's the same guy. You don't jump on a Zoom call and go, oh, that was a bit underwhelming. You know, he's not just this loud mouth on LinkedIn, and then he's a fucking opinionated guy. You have a one-on-one with him, you're like, bloody hell, this guy's...
You have to be opinionated. I think that's one thing that I definitely see is that if you just go along with the flow all the time, you just get lost.
So let's go into why people don't show an opinion. And what do you think? I know the answer to. I know what I believe, but what do you think is the reason people don't have an opinion online?
I think they don't have an opinion because they're afraid of the downside risk of being outside the status quo.
The backlash, yeah.
The backlash of it. And I very much, and again, maybe it's the neurodiversity thing, but I quite enjoy that side of things because, you know, I like to be quite, it's maybe my old man's, it put me in that way as well, but I have noticed that when you bring any piece of content that is questionable or is not in full agreement, it just gets more response because then there's a more visceral emotional reaction. And you don't have to be an asshole to put across a point that is maybe, you know, might not be considered like, a lovely point by everyone. It's like the idea of job hoppers.
Yeah.
You know, there is this very, very big back and forth on that concept. You know, I personally don't hire job hoppers. Not big, and it's just for me personally, is because
you've got a bit of a rule that you abide by.
My view is, look, if I have 1,000 resumes where people have lots of short stints and 1,000 resumes where they don't, the percent likelihood I'm going to find the right candidate is higher than that one. So it's not like, so I know that I'm going to miss out on great people from pile one, certainly.
But you're accepting it.
But I'm accepting, and because I'm saying what everyone has but doesn't have, what everyone doesn't have but don't want to admit, which is lack of time. I'd love to have enough time to go through 2,000 resumes. I don't. So I've got to think about how do I make efficiency, and that might be an unpopular opinion, for example, but it's what I've done and it's worked for me. Now I brought that post up a few times, and it always gets a visceral reaction either way, for the obvious reasons, right? Because there are people who do hop jobs. There are people that do it and they are doing it for the wrong reasons but don't realize. There are people that are really unfortunate and just had a really bad run of luck as well. And there are people that don't. So like what I love is that there's a smashing of opinions, and that just makes content.
Again, the way I try and explain it to people is, have you ever disagreed with a customer on the phone? Anyone who's ever made it in this industry has said, yeah, because you have to. Because if someone says to you, look, I want this, and they give you the expectation, and you're like, you're not getting that for that. Like, unrealistic. Today's market, you're well underpaying for what you want or whatever. Like, you have to be able to do that. To be able, instead, if you just go, yeah, okay, I'll do what you want.
That's a great point, actually, to say, if you can't do it on social media, how can you do it with a client? It probably is the same skill.
But it's usually everyone can do it on the phone. They have to do it. They're not going to get to the founder level without doing it. They're just not. So, but it's that fear of going, what happens if I do it in front of more people? And I get it. I've been there. I got absolutely hammered about 6 months ago when I did a post about specking CVs, and I got annihilated. But there was moments where I was like, why have I fucking put that up? But more people came through, and more people agreed with me, and the amount of people who referenced it on the phone, and I'm like, I know they say what, you got to crack an egg to make an omelette. You have to split the room a little bit at times, but only if you believe it. That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
The bit that I worry is when people go, I'll be opinionated and I'll try and go well on social, but they wouldn't believe it. Do you know what I mean? If they wouldn't say it, don't fucking put it on there. So what do we do if? And again, I'm seriously positioning my business and my conversations at founders, right? I'm not, because I think if you're a junior recruiter and you've not got the gravitas to even have that conversation on the phone, you've not got the gravitas to put it on LinkedIn. So
I'm interrupting today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Atlas, the only AI-first recruitment platform on the market. Now, imagine you had a genuine assistant following you around, listening to everything you said on the phone or in meetings, and then doing all the admin for you that you don't want to do. Well, that is actually possible now through Atlas CRM. It's the only platform with fully integrated AI, so there's no note-taking whatsoever and no need to buy any additional software. Now, they've got so many amazing features. Specifically, they've got AI-generated interview notes. That means Atlas AI provides comprehensive interview notes minutes after a call ends, detailing every question asked and responses given. This includes a highly accurate transcript and a recording option, so you never have to rely on taking ridiculous notes while you're on the phone. You can listen intently and get the best notes afterwards using AI. Okay, so Atlas is brand new to the market and launching so rapidly. For the first 200 members, they are offering what's called a founder's license, okay? And the founder's license is going to be a 40% discount for life, okay? And it's only for the first 200. Now, if you want to be in the first 200, you're listening to this episode through the RAG, you're going to have a great chance. Go to www.recruitwithatlas.com/the RAG and sign up on that page. All right, let's get back to the show.
So let's have a little look at someone else. So if I look at someone like Stuart Mitchell, who I've been working with for a few years, he's in the boardroom with me. So Stuart owns a company called Hampton North in Connecticut in the US, right? He recruits cybersecurity. We are, if you look at his banner, we are the premium US-based cybersecurity search firm. I spoke to Stu this week, and he's actually under the pump. Like, he's in a position where he was hiring a VP. It's not worked out. He's actually so ingrained in his business right now. And some would say it's a difficult moment because he's got so much work on. So he's got, in a downturn where people are still complaining there's not enough jobs and he's got too much work. But if I look at the publication in October, does this work? Right, Stuart's got over 40,000 followers. He posts every single day. He's opinionated. If you meet Stuart, he's opinionated. He calls himself the Grinch. He's a bit moody, and he's hilarious. But he fucking knows his stuff, right? He's not going to be the big BD phone smasher. That's just not his nature. So working in certain firms, he wouldn't even get, genuinely, he wouldn't even get, like, people wouldn't, some recruitment owners wouldn't want to work with him because they'd be like, well, he's not going to hit the phone 12 hours a day. He's just not. But he knows how to get audience. He knows how to build an audience. He knows how to be seen as the premium. He knows how to advise and consult. This is what he put out late last year. So October, they had a month where they did 16 permanent fees across 8 clients. That was $500,000 in revenue. Permanent NFI. Every single member of the team contributed. There's only 5 people, including him. So one's an operational person. So there's like 3 billers and Stu, and they did $500,000.
What do they say is the total average billing? Is it like 120K per year? For like the average billing?
An average recruiter, yeah. I think an average consultant, most businesses are working on a basis of 10 grand a month, yeah. So
they've essentially done like a year's worth of the average recruiter in a month. Approaching.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It's a very large sum of money.
I didn't look at it that way. But I think that it's not even about the numbers, because there's businesses that could say, well, we've done that. But it's the fact that they've not had to pick a single phone up to get a single one of them vacant.
That's the difference, isn't it? It's how you get business in. It's the classic inbound versus outbound.
They're not having to convince people to work with them. They're not having to pick up the phone. They're not in a bum fight. They're not in contingent searches. These are retained. These are clients coming to them. These are people saying, I want to work with you. And look, sometimes they might spend time working on things that perhaps are not... there might be better work out there that they've not gone out and BD'd for and chased, but they've got a consistent stream of inbound, which it's giving him a headache now because he needs to hire. They've got too much work. They've got too much demand for the team. When I look at I was on a webinar yesterday.
Anyone looking for a new job watching this?
I know.
Right now,
if you want to work for an amazing firm in the US, look, get in touch with Stu. But I'm not a rec to rec on fees. But genuinely, like, I did a webinar yesterday. I had over 120 recruitment leaders on the call, and I'm talking about like how to dominate in 2025. over 50% of that room still saying the market's not there. You know, it's still difficult. It's still down, not enough jobs. And I'm like, I'm not saying there's not markets that are worse than others, but there's people dominating in every market still. There's people making a lot of money in every market. And the people, the common denominator is an audience. They're not reliant on how many hours they can put in to get the work, how many times they can do that every day. They're relying on the fact that they're already hitting so many people with their message on a daily basis that people choose them.
It's one of those things which once you get it right, it's so powerful. But there is a big misconception that you can just start and it will just occur. I think that it's like, you know, the New Year's diet resolution, right? You start, it doesn't go as quick as you want. So you're like, oh, bugger this.
I think there is, like, again, I live and breathe this, right? I think let's just compare it to the last 12 months I've had with alcohol. So I stopped booze in December 2023. I'm now 14 months in, right? I think building a brand is quite similar, where I had some really cool initial highs. So 2 weeks in, I remember coming back from Dubai, I'd been on holiday, I'd not drank. I felt like I was on top of the world. And I didn't look that different. Probably not many things had changed, but it was just an emotion that I was seeing there was difference coming.
Still the long hair at the time?
Yeah, I had the top,
the long hair?
at the top knot. At the top knot.
Very nice, the top knot.
At the man bun at the back. And then over the year, like, things have just got gradually better. And, like, you know, I said I'm almost 10 kilos down in weight. You know, I sleep better. I wake up earlier. I go to bed better. My diet now is completely different. Like, I think once I cracked the booze, I was able to look at other things and think, what am I eating that shit for? And like last night, I put a post up this morning. Me and Emma, when we had a whole day of meetings, I went out for lunch, I went out for dinner, I went for a steak dinner. Obviously didn't have any drinks, and then got back to the hotel at 8 or 7:30, and we were like, should we go for a run? And we did a 7.5 kilometre run across the Thames. Whereas that would have been a couple more pints, go to bed, and I would have felt shit here now today. And I'm like, that wouldn't have happened last January. That's took time for me to get to the point where I'm so robust now. My life is just worlds apart. I genuinely think it's worlds apart. So if we go back to the brand thing, I think you can see results in 2 weeks. Is
that right?
You can. Of course you can. Like, I've got clients. The common denominator is none of these people have walked into LinkedIn on day one with 0 followers and then gone, I'm going to build a brand. They haven't. They already had 10,000, 15,000 followers and connections, and then they've gone, I'm going to start using this. So you've already got a base.
I think to myself, I agree with you. Like, I mean, they say it's $580 billion, the recruitment market. It's huge.
Yeah.
And people are hiring all the time. So there is unlimited demand. You know, okay, if you're a big listed company, fair enough. But if you're a small company, there is unlimited demand for you. And I just think, put your head in the other person's shoes. Like, hello, I'm Chief Product Officer. And like, I go on Reddit or LinkedIn and scroll a bit. And if there is a recruiter who keeps popping up, like, it would just pop in my peripheral. So so I don't know this gentleman, Mark Long, knew me.
I know Mark. I had lunch with Mark, but I've not worked with him. I can't take any credit, but Mark's doing well, and I had lunch with him in Sheffield about him.
But so because I think he does a lot of product stuff.
He does.
So, and I'm obviously by training a product person. So, you know, he pops up on my feed. Never met the guy. He pops up on my feed with quite interesting content about product. And like, it's funny because now if I was, you know, hiring like a chief product officer, let's say in 4 years time, and I felt like I really needed to go down to an exec search or to a specialist, his name would just be there now because I've just seen him not so much advertising his services to the market, but he seems to be ingrained in it. And again, it's that element of you see the person rather than the business itself, because I think that's, you know, recruitment is very much, okay, you go to Heidrick and Struggles, but you're probably going to Jane at Heidrick and Struggles. And if Jane moves, you're going to go with Jane. Yeah, it's very much, there is this power that comes and the inbound becomes from that. It comes from, because everyone hires. Every hiring manager hires. Guess what? And quite obviously, a lot of them can't do it with internal talent only. If they could, it would not be a $580 billion market, which is like the biggest market for quite a lot of services. So clearly people are hiring, clearly people use agencies, and clearly they have to make a decision. And who are they, they have an unlimited choice because there is a lot of recruiters too. So who are they going to go for? And that, I think, is where social is really worth the effort, because you might not, maybe you don't even notice. You mentioned to me that you had people that had kind of been following you for years, and then all of a sudden they come online for some
Literally, we signed a client last week. We've had a really good start to the year. We always do in January, have a good one, because people come back and they're like, fuck, I want to get on to 2025. But we signed one last week who joined our boot camp, and yeah, he said, I've been watching you since the start. He remembered my first office. He remembered me running around London on my iPhone. I didn't know the guy. He'd never even liked my stuff. We've been watching. And I'm like, I get 1 million eyeballs a month on LinkedIn, and I don't know who these people are. I only know the ones that like and comment and follow and engage. But the difference with what I've got that experience, this is where I said it takes time. I've got so much faith in the numbers. I don't need to know every single one of them because I know they'll come. I know the people, it's just going to compound. Whereas what a lot of people struggle with in the early days is they want an ROI off every single thing they do. They're like, I've posted 3 times and I've not had a job yet. And they,
it's the metricing.
Yeah, so they're just obsessing over the results from the small amount of work they've done. It's like saying I've made 3 calls today and I've not fucking pulled a job and given up on recruitment. The thing I always say to people is, if you follow a process consistently and you put the effort in and you ask questions and you've got someone who's a leader who's got experience, if someone comes with the right attitude and they consistently do it, do you believe they'll be successful in recruitment? Everyone says yeah. It's because they've not got a process, they haven't got a leader, and they haven't got the right attitude. They're the 3 reasons people don't succeed. It's exactly the same here. It's exactly the same. If you've got someone you can look up to and speak to, which is obviously the role I play for a lot of people, my business does. But if you've got some guidance, and some of these people are doing amazing without me, so it's not just about me. But if you've got some guidance, you've got the right attitude, and you're prepared to put the work in and follow a plan, it's got to be repeatable. Like, let's just take Mark Long now. I'm just reading a post he wrote a week ago. CPTO, that's the role. Is that a chief
product and tech officer?
Right. I was making sure you knew because I was thinking chief.
Was that you would have caught me out there? Aha! Right. What's this?
Chief product. So he's wrote a little parable, right? CPTO in speech marks. I'm worried, and you're gonna have a good year. Me, why? CPTO. We only offer equity to the exco, and we're worried that team members will be poached. A snippet of a call I had last week with a Series C scale-up CPTO who is concerned because they know the job market is picking up and they know they have ridden the employer-biased market for the last 2 years. My thoughts: 1, you shouldn't have underpaid people in the first place. 2, there will be more job opportunities for people this year. 3, you are correct to be worried. It's cyclical. It was in 2000, 2009, and was in 2020, and it always will be. So that post has got 50 odd likes, 14 comments. If I look at the people, chief technology officers, senior product managers, he's getting the right people engaging with this post, right? So,
because you're saying what people are feeling, and that's the tough one. And that's the funny thing because I've been thinking about this, previously, even the last couple of weeks about preemptive promotions and things like that. Is that I'm trying to make sure that promotions come and people kind of almost don't expect it, because then it has much more power. But you should always think like that. Is my package good enough? Did I, as he mentions, ride the wave of the employer market? And, the funny thing is that if for everyone reading, there will be some people who have just lost someone because of that. And they're going to see that and immediately they're going to say, oh my God, he knows exactly what I'm feeling. And now, obviously, he's got to make a hire as well. So you're almost saying, I understand this market well, so I'm not going to preach you. I'm just going to say this is the observations. But again,
even if it doesn't lead to a job tomorrow, someone might reach out and go, Mark, I'd like your advice on this. Like, you clearly understand our pain. What have you seen work for others?
Yeah.
You mentioned the market's there'll be more jobs this year for people. What do you actually think is going to happen? Like, where are you getting this data from? So he becomes I've got this big phrase I call purpose beyond placements, right? I think if all you ever do is talk about placements, have you got a vacancy? I've got a candidate. Do you need a job? Do you need a person? you're so transactional. Whereas when you think bigger and you think, I want to help people's careers, I want to help people build business, I want to help people succeed, that goes beyond the placements of the vehicle of how I monetize it. But what I'm trying to do is get you to a bigger goal. This gets you to that status where you're like, because this isn't about hiring necessarily. This is about retention. It's about rewarding people. It's about building businesses with scale, with locking the right people in. It's about structures of shareholdings. This is way bigger than just, oh, you need a product member, I'll get that for you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
But the only way, obviously you can have phone calls with people, which is the old way. And I want people to completely lean into the phone. Do not stop picking up the phone. This is never going to be my advice. Go and have as many phone calls a day as you can. But you're going to max out at 8 to 10. That post would have got 20, 30,000 eyeballs on it.
That's the thing. We don't like what we can't model. So you can say, right, I know that if you do 20 outbound calls, you're going to get 2 nibbles. And that's going to, and then you say, right, okay, that's the machine I do. And you run this machine, it don't work half the time. But at least you know you have that. It's like this, human beings, we need surety. We like, it's like, why when you read like news, the equity market went up because of these reasons. Like, we need a reason. Yeah. It's not just it went up a bit, went down a bit, which it did. And the same way, you want this engine because it makes sense. Inbound doesn't make sense. Like, theoretically it does. Everything we've been talking about makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I definitely would follow someone who talked about things that I cared about. But the fact that you can not say, for every 100 likes, I'm going to get 2 nibbles.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But what you can say is, for every 100 likes, you can reach out to every one of them.
That you can.
That's how I look at it. Like, I think it just enhances the sales, the outbound. It makes outbound easier. The inbound is the fucking cherry on the cake. But I class those warm leads as inbound anyway. So if you like my post and I go, whoa, you're the sort of person I'd love to work with, and I go, hey Jordan, thanks for liking my post, what's going on? To me, that's inbound, because I 100% know you know me.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And you've obviously read the post.
And if it's the last 24 hours, I'm hitting you in a moment you're going to remember. If I wait a month or a week or 2 weeks, you might forget. But if I hit you fast enough, and that's where, bots will take over this in the future. But right now, LinkedIn doesn't want you using bots for things like this. You've got to spend a bit of time. I don't do enough of it, clearly, but I do spend 15 minutes a day every day just engaging with people, just replying to things. And I've got teams now that are doing it through Hoxo, and it's basics, but
one thing actually that you mentioned that we've got Nikos looks after our kind of short form marketing, and he literally put a survey on LinkedIn saying which country eats the most pizza per capita, and it got like 140 votes, of which 70% of them were recruiters.
Yeah,
like our target market. So he's been going out and
again, if you message them and go, you mentioned you like pizza, do you want to talk about your CRM? Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. But again, I think I don't really, if I was going to work the content, as in like, I'm going to work my engagement, I'm going to work the business stuff more than the entertaining stuff. So let's say, for example, I've got a client who has worked with me. In fact, it's the same guy the Guinness that we had last Christmas, right? So we went for a Guinness and we ended up working together on a bigger scale. He was already working with me, but he joined my boardroom. And first post he ever saw of me, will categorically say, is about my French Bulldog. Now, we did not work together because of that post. I didn't follow up on him because of that post. But he says that's what gripped the attention. Now, because he then clicked on it and he viewed my profile and we connected, he then saw my subsequent business stuff.
Yeah.
Which led to the working together. So people who think this entertaining, non-work related stuff is nonsense and, yeah, what money are you going to make out of talking about your holiday? Well, I get that. But it might be that post that then sucks someone into your ecosystem that leads them to seeing the business stuff. Do you know what I mean? It could be that's just the hook.
Because that's how the algo works, right? You look at one post from someone, then it will say, okay,
you're likely to see
more of them.
Well, the statistics that they publish say that you're 80% more likely to see someone's next post when you click through to their profile, if you're first degree connected. So by just clicking through and saying, I like that post, I want to see that person, the chance of seeing the next post is 80% increased.
When we do a lot of content, and I'm very outcome focused on it, I'm always saying, if it's like an advertisement, I'm always saying, like, imagine someone scrolling we need them to stop scrolling. So what is content that's going to stop scrolling? And it's like we've gone down to what color stops people scrolling, and we then A/B test the same. We might do an advertisement or an infographic, and we'll change the color and say, right, what worked?
Well, I'll it's a good point. I mean, I don't do as much on the design side for LinkedIn, but I do a lot on the headlines. So the first line on my posts.
Yeah.
And like I did a post yesterday about one of the podcast guests, Hemish, who, you know, he's just done 1 million. Oh God, why is this internet keep dropping off? Yeah, so if I go back, I'll just show you now. So I posted yesterday, and it was the headline: "Every recruiter's fear." Losing every recruiter's fear, losing your billing touch, right? Hemish hadn't done a deal in 7 years when he left his leadership role managing a £4.5 million team. Biomedical science grad to recruitment leader, he had the perfect career. Then he took a chance and decided to quit. January 23, he had zero network, zero clients, zero confidence, but he had a vision. 24 months later, he's got a thriving business, and he's just built £1 million into it. So 200k year one, 800k year two, pounds, right? On his own, no one, just working. We've been working with him and helping him on his brand. But I mean, it's not all down to that, but it's a lot down to the fact he's a presence. One of the comments here, headline is misleading. In a team leadership role, surely his primary was to get reports to Bill and grow his team, apparently achieving 4.5 NFI. You've not read the post, and you've not listened to the episode. Headline is not misleading. If every biller's fear is losing your billing, so if you listen, Hemish's biggest fear when he set up was that he couldn't bill. He's like, I've led a team for 7 years. I've not made a single placement. I'm now going to be sat on my own in my flat doing the whole job again. Have I got it? Have I lost my touch? Have I got any confidence? So I think when anyone, and I was in this boat, when you go from being a manager in a recruitment business or a director to setting up on your own, there is an appreciation, or there's a realization that you've got to go back. You've got to take a step back and do the manual job. You've got to become a recruiter again. And for some people, they don't want to do it, or they're not capable, or they're frightened to death. And Hemish was super honest. That was his biggest fear. And look, we played with different headlines. We probably wrote 10 different headlines out. And then that was the one that I was like, that'll do well. And it sat there on 25,000 impressions. You know, it'll get 100 likes, got a lot of people going to be listening to the show. It's worked, right?
Mm. Yeah, the hook is really important.
It's massive. It's 80% of what they say, 80%, 80 cents out your dollar is your hook. So there's 5 times more people are going to read the headline than the rest of the copy.
And then, yeah, I imagine. And so, because I think you get 3 lines above the fold on LinkedIn, right? So, and then there's that concept of how do you begin a post to make people click to see the
Well, you need to give people I think you need to give people enough that they want to see what's next, but not so much that they don't need to read the rest. So some people spit it all out at the beginning, and there's nothing else to, like, what's the point? You've told me the answer in the first line.
Yeah, we did this. I remember right when Nikos, my marketing guy, joined us, he made this post. We were looking at AI in recruitment, and his above the line hook, because we discussed hooks, was started with, do you want to know something cool? And that was it. And obviously it didn't work, because then, you know, I said, imagine someone like kind of took you to one side on the street and said, do you want to know something cool? You'd very much walk past saying, what a lunatic.
Yeah, no
But
thanks.
we said, but then it was just, okay, we know we've got an interesting statistic on recruitment and AI. So let's say, you know, can you guess how many recruiters already use AI? Or something like that was the above the line hook we changed. Because then it's like, I'd like to know that, because am I in the it crowd? Am I the leader of the pack? I don't know. So, and I think maybe that is when we go into content and how people can get their content to work well. And that's probably one of the things that you start with. You'll just write content, write things that come to mind, some business, some personal, whatever. And as long as it's authentic, it's a good start. The next thing, I do think there is some nuance with, okay, I've written this great post, but it could have actually gone 100x better if the first sentence.
But I'd say that's probably the common theme between the people on this at the top of this list. And I can't speak for everyone on it, and we're going to publish it as well for people to see after this. I think the common theme is these people they've got an awareness of what they're doing and try and improve. So I always say, never stop testing, you'll never stop improving. I do loads of things that flop, and I don't delete them. I learn from them. I just think, fucking hell, that was I did one yesterday, and I had to edit the headline because I was like, it was too internal. Oftentimes we think we're thinking it, But for it to work, it's got to be what others are thinking. It's got to be what's in other people's minds. It's got to be a question that they want answering, not what you want answering. The amount of times people say, I've spent loads of time on this post and it's not worked, it's because they've not gone, what was I saying? What actually happened? And how can I take that? They're going, what would be good on, what could I write about today? So it's about reversing that question. What did I already say today? What did me and Jordan already debate about? What did we argue about? What was the words you used? What did I use? What was it the bit that got us riled? Why did he disagree with me? These are the questions we should be asking, because they're the real things that, like, there's a reason why, like, just bloody Big Brother and these reality TV shows work. Is because they're genuinely, you're seeing the real side of what's happening behind the scenes. You know, the Amazon Prime documentaries of, like, football clubs. We love seeing managers in changing rooms going at people, swearing, arguing, laughing, crying, because it's like, that's what really happened.
And then we're going back to personal. So what do people really care about?
Yeah, but even the business side should be as authentic as possible. It should be raw. It should be real. It shouldn't be like a polished investment deck version of what we're talking about. Get back to basics. It's funny as well. A lot of these people, like Harry Porch, who's going to be on the show, Adam Posner, Ryan Kelly, like, you read their content and it's not like, they're not, I mean, they can write clearly, but they're not just using, like, amazing grammar and punctuation, and it's not about, like, who's the best copywriter. It's who's the best, they're translating their emotions and personality into copy. So it's like, who sounds the most like them in real life? Like, Ryan Kelly is in Australia, but he's an English guy, and when you read his content, you're like, I get a real vibe for him. And then when you jump on a call with him, you're like, you are that guy. He's like got a bit of a sarcastic edge, bit like Stu Mitchell. It's really good. Whereas Harry is a young, he's you know, he's early 20s, running a recruitment company. You know, he's clearly like new generation founder, and you get that vibe from him. And again, when I'll have him on the show, he is that guy.
So authenticity is what you're saying.
I think in a world where AI is taking over, and look, you know more than me, we're gonna have to lean the other way at times. We're gonna have to go back to being human.
I actually think it's a good segue on AI and comp, because I've seen it more and more and more in today's fast-paced world. And you are like, it's now quite obvious to see where AI is used, because it just sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's so boring to read because, again, it's not authentic. It's very clearly inauthentic to the author.
Who came up with the language? Or because if you say, write me a LinkedIn post, someone's populated what a LinkedIn post should look.
Yeah.
Because you always get the same. Obviously, you can teach it, which I've worked hard on, but it'll always like the same sort of calls to action that are overly manufactured. Like, it'll say things like, you know, let's talk about this, and like, you don't end a post on LinkedIn with that. Like, it's just, when you have to ask people to engage, typically you've lost it already. Like, so it's, I don't know who populated.
There's always those
AI models.
Yeah. It's like the same as sales emails. You know, make some connection to them personally. Outline a problem they might have. Outline how you've solved with others.
Yeah.
Call to action. And now, obviously, that worked when it was new, and now the only thing I get is exactly that. It's like AI is saying, "Hey Jordan, regurgitation of things I've read on your LinkedIn automatically. Oh, I see you went to Bristol. Did you like restaurant at Bristol? I did too. Anyway, would you like to buy my stuff?" And it's like, oh my God.
Horrible. I get it all the time.
You realize why it's not the silver bullet, because there is a reason why sales is difficult. And it's not like you can say, step 1, AI, step 2, question mark, step 3, profit. It's not like AI makes crap salespeople good. It's a great tool, but sales, the whole point of it is that it's like game theory. You know, it's zigging when everyone else is zagging, where you know you're getting this kind of commentary from 90% of the people, and I'm going to send something different to you because different resonates. I think I talked about that book from, it's not Patrick Lencioni, it's, I forget the name, but I have to give it to you afterwards, but it's like the psychology of different. And salespeople understand, like, and this is not just the whole thing, but it's like they know that different works better than doing the same thing. So you have to be very cognizant of how the buyer is feeling at any single point. So we know that everyone who's got a manager title is a potential customer. We know what they are receiving. We know how what they're receiving has changed. We know this because we see it ourselves. Like, we are on the receiving end of garbage emails, AI written, and we can see increasingly garbage comments and garbage posts. And so it's not like you just do more of it and something's going to happen. I think it just still requires a brain to say, well, this is what everyone else is seeing. So how do I cut through this new noise and just being able to change the patterns that you run?
I mean, I'm a big believer in like using AI and automation to slicken up things that work within a warmer audience. So like with existing customers, with existing teammates, with, like you say, even your internal data, like you say, my notes that I'd put in my CRM. But when you're trying to hit a cold audience, when you're trying to reach out to people that don't know you, I just don't believe in the data. That I think I talk about it a lot, that yeah, you can blast 10,000 emails out and you might get 10 bites back and you might think that was a successful day, but you just had 9,990 that didn't reply.
They never reply now.
And what's the impact? Could you be in the spam filters? Could you be blocked? I click report spam all the time when I get these emails through.
Same.
I don't want you anywhere near me again. And I don't even read them. And there's some stuff that could be really valuable, but I just don't like the way it's done.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've certainly noticed that my Outlook is collecting spam way better than it was last year.
Yeah.
So something has changed in how they do it. That now I honestly get hardly any like sales.
I'm getting
get in.
I think the last week something's broke through. I'm Gmail. Something's broke through and I've had a lot. But yeah, I'd say it's definitely better. But I think people, again, it's the people that are desperate for that. I do 100, I get 2 back. They're desperate. If you're desperate for an outcome of every activity you ever put in, then you ain't gonna ever go down this train. And I guarantee if we interviewed every single one in the top 100, they're gonna be more. I believe they're gonna lean into the metrics and they're gonna believe in the bigger picture. They're gonna believe in delayed gratification. They're gonna see, I'm building an audience. They're not just saying, well, I post on Tuesday so I can do a deal on Wednesday. They're not thinking that way.
Yeah, I think that's
it's a mindset.
Very good. Yeah, that delayed gratification is a really good way to encapsulate inbound. It really is that way. Obviously, you mentioned there can be quick wins here.
Could be loads of quick wins. If you suddenly start getting comments on your content and people viewing your profile and you're following up, within a week you can see results. But to seriously start seeing a different world where like I always think the first year, you're still going to be doing all your outbound activities and it's just going to get easier. People are going to start recognizing you. People are going to respond to you. People are like, oh yeah, I've seen you on LinkedIn. So many of my clients are like, Sean, people keep saying they've seen me. So I ring up a company and they're like, I know you from LinkedIn. I'm like, I like your content. I'm like, that's the first sign. When you keep hearing this, that you're doing something. But second year and third year and fourth year, which is, unless you're retiring soon, you should be thinking like that. That's when things are coming the other way. And you're getting all these messages going, look, could we have a chat about your services? Could we have a little, I probably get every day, I get at least 1 or 2 LinkedIn messages saying, hey, could we find out if Hoxo is right for us? And I'm like, we don't sign them all, but bloody hell, it's a good conversation when they've come to you. I love it. It's so much better than having to chase companies who don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Convincing people to spend time with me. I'm like, I'd rather not if I can avoid it.
And we obviously a bit different because we obviously a SaaS product rather than a service, but I have not done a cold call for a year. Yeah. Neither has my head of revenue. Like we're now getting just continuous inbounds because this marketing strategy was our strategy. As I mentioned to you maybe last time, we kicked off our inbound 7 months before selling the product because we had the view, look, it takes time to really embed and be that kind of just known entity where people say, oh, I know this.
Your name, I always feel like now, and this is why when you approached us about becoming a partner, and I was like, yeah, it took me a while to decide.
We were really early when I first reached out.
I was like,
to you.
I know, but it took us a good 6 to 9 months of meeting, and I don't want to back anyone I don't believe in, but the thing I was expecting with you, which I believe has happened, is you'll be in the conversation now. Like every time someone talks CRM, your name pops up. Like Atlas are in it, and I'm like, that's a great sign because you weren't even on the radar 12 months ago for some.
Yeah, we had no product.
No,
and now really early on,
genuinely in the conversation across big parts of the industry, which is great. Now, if we go back to this top 100, like what brainchild of me and you, but what in your words, how would people use it? Why would they want to be a part of it? Like what's the point of it?
Generally, we talked about that it was impossible to make metrics of inbound, and therefore it's very difficult to then get enthusiasm on the long term. We've just solved that for you because we've metricized it for you. And it's quite clear, based on the people we can see in that top 25 and based on their success, either what we know directly or what we've heard and seen indirectly, that it is clearly working. Not to say that the only reason they're successful is because they happen to be at the top of this list, but this is the point, is this is a mathematical model of who is doing the best in social for these particular social platforms. You know, again, it's not a one-to-one ratio. It's not like if you get to the top of this list, you're going to be the top biller.
No.
But quite clearly,
you've still got to be good at recruitment at the end of the day. That's the bit I don't get involved in. You've still got to be good at recruitment, but you'll have more opportunities.
I bet you if you took of the top 100 and you got the average billings of these people and you compared it to those not in there, I will bet you that they'll be billing more.
One, there's no doubt they're billing more, but it's how they make their money. If you said to them...
Yeah, with less effort.
But if you said to them, all right, you can bill the same amount, but stop doing it this way and I'll take it away, they'd say no. Like you say to me now, I'll give you more money, Sean, but you've got to work. You've got to sit there every day and you've got to pick up the phone, you've got to smash phones, you've got to bash door downs. I'll be like, no. Because how I make my money is now as important as how much. As long as it's in a ballpark figure and I'm moving forward, I'm at a point in my life where I want to wake up and enjoy it. I'm not just doing this just to, there's probably a period in your career where it's like, can I make money? Can I break through 6 figures or whatever? But once you get to that point, you're like, well, I know I can make money. I'm skilled, I'm dangerous. Then it's about how. Then it's about waking up and feeling passionate and enjoying it and speaking to people that value your services and, you know, being seen as someone of authority, of credibility. That's what it's all about. So look, I think we're going to plan to distribute this list on a quarterly basis.
That's right.
Get it out
every
on social.
quarter.
If you're featured, then give us a shout. Let us know what you think. If you think you should be featured and you're not happy that you're not on the list, let us know.
Oh, true. Yeah, we literally don't have unlimited of everyone. So everyone who's responded to us when we've asked, we've done our research, but we have probably missed a few. So just ping us, ping Sean, whoever, and we'll add you to this cycle.
If you think you've been missed, then let us know. And then I'm going to make an effort to get through. I've already got a few of these scheduled for the show, but I'm going to get an effort to get through a few of these on the show and find out. Let's just find out like what impact's it having. Let's make sure that people are hearing the stories and it's not just. I guess my final comment is I don't want people to think, oh, it's a luxury. I don't think it is. Just like I don't think if you think AI is a luxury, I think you're missing an opportunity. I'm not saying it's the silver bullet and it's the only thing you should lean into, but you've got to be aware of it. Just like you've got to be building a brand.
I quite like luxuries. Prefer them to non-luxuries. Wouldn't mind them, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it. Jordan, keep going. We'll get you back on again in a few months. And yeah, I hope people are working with you because I love what you're doing.
Thank you, man. And you too.
Top man. Cheers, mate.
Thank you as always for listening to today's show. I truly hope that you got value from it. Honestly, it's the only reason I take time every week to ensure that my audience, you guys, future and existing recruitment owners, you're learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. And today's episode is brought to you by my business, Hoxo. I'm the CEO and founder, and we're on a mission to help brand recruitment agencies and their people better. I want to help people have the tools to stand out in the most competitive markets in the world. So I'll see you again next week with another episode. Catch you soon.